Hey everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of We Still Haven't Really Figured Out the Name of This Podcast. We just really thought we needed another podcast with three cis white guys to divulging their opinions that no one asked for. We really thought we needed more representation. There are not enough white people in podcasting. So
Yeah, all those fucking like women out there, like they need to be shown the way by someone, you know?
yeah, exactly. Like there's you have an idea how hard this was. We had to get a mic, we had to plug it in, we have to talk. Like, dude, like
Yeah.
big brain over here. And
We had
also
to spend a small fraction of our income, or at least some of us did, to make
yeah,
this happen.
some of us. I wonder who you could be inferring with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you guys can thank the fact that I had actually a pretty good month on YouTube last month, so I was able to give some of that money to Caleb so he can buy. Well, I bought him a new mic. So yeah, he actually sounds pretty decent from now on instead of not. Anyway,
I'm a
so
man
I am
now.
really excited. Yeah, so I am actually really excited about doing this podcast, but part of me is also terrified because I see like those things of like those skits of people saying, "Yeah, man, we should start a podcast." They get all the mics, everything set up, they hit record, and
then
they
it's
can't
like,
think of a word to
hey,
say.
man, you ever see that movie, Deliverance? There's this scene where they're on like the side of a hill and this dude's like screaming at the other one, is like squealing like a pig. Thought that was a pretty good scene. What do you think of that scene?
Yeah, that was really funny, and I cried.
Yeah, my favorite movie is Grown Ups that came out in 2011, and
Hey man, you ever tried DMT?
We're already alienating our audience.
yeah, we have. Anyway, I think we decided before this is the bass boosted podcast, scooped mids, bass boosted. You know, I prefer just having bass boosted for this. At first, I was like, yeah, scooped mids podcast, but then I thought, bass boosted rolls off the tongue a bit more, and I figured that most people who aren't even into music don't really know what scooped mids means, so I didn't pick the best name for the channel. Yeah,
I mean,
so
took that
anyway,
name from me anyway.
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, that's some lore in there. We're at one point we're all gonna have a big channel, combined channel of everyone doing stuff, and the reasoning for it is stupid. You don't need to know, but the name of the channel is gonna be Scooped Mids, and my name at the time was All Out War. And then when I started making more videos again, I was thinking, man, All Out War is a fucking stupid ass name. So I asked Caleb if I could steal the name, and he said yes. So yeah, basically. And I also, every logo I've ever had, I've pretty much either stolen or Drew has made for me. So I have not done. My branding is completely up on the air. It's in the air. It's has nothing to do with me. It's all other people surrounding me and being nice and making me like channel icons and stuff.
Yeah, the
We
current
all
yeah, that's the funny
fertilized
thing.
you.
the current channel
Exactly.
the wallpaper for the channel was designed by me. The current profile picture is all James, obviously. But when it was
No, that's actually Drew. I don't look like that.
well, so before Scoop Mids had like the, you know, the guitars in the profile picture and the wallpaper, the one before that, the like brown cloudy, you know, toilet background or whatever the hell, like that was also made by me, but that was when like I think it was like a draft that I sent. I'm like, hey, this is what it is so far, and James is like, you know, I could use this, and I'm like, cool, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. Which it's kind of funny because during that time was also kind of the dark age of growth for my channel too.
Yeah, like one video per, well, that's today too, like one video per month. But like,
yeah, but people are actually watching, which is the difference. But
So,
anyway, maybe a little bit of an introduction is in order because I would hope you guys know me if you're watching this podcast. But hey, I'm James. I'm currently naked right now, and yeah, I make all the shit videos that you see here, besides the James and Friends videos, which Drew edits the majority of. And yeah, Drew, how about introduce yourself?
my name is Drew. If you've seen me in the James
Not
and
really
Friends,
though.
Not really Drew. No, that's actually not my real name. Surprise, surprise. But I go by Drew most often. I do most of the editing. I also do most of the icon work, the thumbnail work sometimes if it's needed on James and Friends.
Yeah.
I keep my involvements kind of limited because it's James's channel, but I used to have my own channel as well where I used to review music and stuff like that. And it's kind of on hiatus for right now. I'm starting up like scripting for my own stuff again, but for the most part I've only been focusing my efforts on music and James and Friends editing stuff, and also participation. But yeah, if you have ever seen my channel, which I don't think any of your audience, James, has seen my channel back when it was active, I used to do like...
Unlikely.
Yeah, very unlikely. I used to do reviews. I used to do retrospectives, but I also did like reviews of like obscure hip-hop songs that you could find on YouTube. And when I say obscure, I don't mean like, 10,000 views from like this up-and-coming hardcore rapper who just wants to be Eminem. No, I'm talking...
Yeah, and it's also not like Nostradamus by Nas, like legit underground shit.
Yeah, 20 subscribers, sometimes 0 subscribers, just whatever was recommended to me by one of my good friends. His name is Jackal Goldkick. Like, he recommended a lot of stuff to me. I also found a lot of stuff. I made a whole series just reviewing music like that. It's unlisted now, but if you go onto my channel, you can find it.
There's also a handful of retrospectives that are unlisted as well.
Yep.
So
Everything's unlisted until I find a new direction for my own channel.
Yeah, and there's also you also have a fair share of unfinished ones, don't you? That'll likely never be finished now.
Yeah, I have so I've tried making the same Flaming Lips retrospective like 3 times. The first time it was really janky, the second time it was good, but the upload got cut off and so it never finished Oxy Melody. And the third time, which I have like tried to script 3 times now before I just get burned out, was gonna be the longest one yet, probably like 3 hours if finished. That's the kind of content I go for.
Yeah, well, you did have one of them finished, like one of them like legit finished, but I know you just weren't happy with it. But I still thought it was a great video. And then it's different. It's different when you made it. Like I can't watch any of my early shit at the slightest. Like I cringe at videos that I made like even a year ago. So don't be too upset.
Fun fact, and this is a self-flex, I don't want to cut off too much time because I know Caleb still has his introduction to do, but...
Nah, no one cares about him, who cares?
Kind of a flex, but James has cited me, like, doing retrospectives as kind of an influence for his own retrospectives. And what's kind of funny is that now, in retrospect, no pun intended, when I'm working on videos nowadays, like scripting them and just brainstorming ideas, I'm actually finding myself more influenced by James's content nowadays. And so it's coming full circle.
It's a full circle, but instead of a circle, it's like the human centipede, but eventually it all connects anyway. Anyway, right. Caleb, what say you?
Oh my fuck. I'm Caleb, obviously. My connection to James's channel is that I occasionally fucking go on to Discord calls and yell about bad music. And that's about it right now, other than coming up with the name. I've wanted to have a YouTube channel of my own for a while, but it just hasn't been working out because I do both work and fucking college. I did have a YouTube channel of my own when I was like fucking 12, but then I sentenced that channel to death for being awful and cringe. Fucking hell, the people in here have seen those videos, but you will never see them.
I haven't seen them either, but I quote them a lot. Hi, I'm Caleb 9000 and I'm not naked. Wait, isn't even that like a fucking like ripoff from PewDiePie or something?
I don't think so. It might have been. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah. I don't really have the same sort of online profile that James and Druid do, so there isn't as much to say about me without divulging like too many personal details. So I'm just here to bullshit and maybe get my own YouTube channel off the ground, and that's that.
Yeah, so basically Caleb is living out his YouTube dreams with me, basically, but me and Drew do all the hard work. Caleb just sits there and looks pretty. That's basically how it goes.
I'm the housewife.
Yeah, exactly.
Caleb's the one member. Oh, go on.
Yeah. About to, and if you watch James and Friends and stuff like that, you might be noticing there's someone missing. That is Nathan, but he actually has a life, so he doesn't have time to do a podcast. Apparently, I try to talk him into it, but he's just not really having it. So, yeah, so it's just gonna be us three.
He will be on.
Yeah, eventually, like every once in a while, but like not as a regular thing. For the most part, it's just gonna be us three knuckleheads. Just saying slurs and stuff like that. I think fortnightly is a good way to put it for now. Fortnightly, and eventually we might get webcams and do an audio-visual thing, but for now, let's just get the audio right, and then we'll worry about webcams, because that's a whole another can of fish. And so, yeah, like this will be a relatively simple one. I think current events and stuff like that, maybe occasionally a review or something like that, getting some guests on. I know I have some things in mind. But speaking of current events, is there anything else we want to get into?
Well, I know you have a list of stuff that we want to get into, and so I'm gonna go off of that because there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about as we went over before we started recording. So first, I think you were talking about the Mick Mars situation. I think that was the first and foremost one.
Yeah, this is a slightly older piece of news, but there's still more coming out about it, which is a total clusterfuck in the slightest. Like, say what you want about Mötley Crüe, but when they retired, they retired at a relatively okay spot. They still had all the original members. They went out with a relative amount of dignity, which Mötley Crüe and dignity, those two words do not go together in the slightest. But they went out with a good amount of dignity. They signed a contract saying they're never going to come out again. And then they had a movie for Netflix, which was pretty shit, but entertaining. And it did really well. Their record sales went up a big bunch. And so then they decided, yeah, let's come back together. Even though we signed a contract saying we wouldn't, and we promised we wouldn't. And a lot of people spent a lot of money to see our final tour. So yeah, that's really cool. And then I actually feel good about this. I'm glad the pandemic happened, so they couldn't even cash in on the Dirt doing really well, because they couldn't even tour. So I felt really good about that. But the main reason, or at least I thought the main reason why Mötley Crüe gave up when they did, was because Mick Mars, that motherfucker, he's not only older than the rest of them, but he has a chronic illness called AS, which means his spine fuses together. And it makes it very hard for him to play, to tour, to travel, all that kind of stuff. And it's only just now come back to say, okay, I can't do this anymore. So they had John 5 playing his place, which, he's good. He's a good player, but he doesn't fit Mötley Crüe. Which by that, I mean he's too good for Mötley Crüe. He actually knows how to play his instrument. But even then, and even the clips of the shows I've seen with John 5, it's way down tempo. Like, he doesn't even play Livewire right. He alternate picks it, which is not how you play it. You do it down picking, because otherwise it just doesn't sound right. So yeah, I was thinking okay, yeah, that's really stupid. And then Mick Mars dropped a big old bomb. Basically, he got kicked out. He was supposed to be at least involved with the band for, recording and whatnot. But apparently, they are trying to push him out of that as well, and, screw him out of shares of the money, which he's still entitled to for merch and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff, and even some of the touring money, because he's still entitled to a lot of it. Maybe not 25%, but definitely a lot of the touring money. And so yeah, it's a total clusterfuck. Then Mötley Crüe came out and said, oh no, he can't play anymore, he's doing this, he's doing that, which is real fucking rich considering the fact that Nikki Sixx has never been able to play bass well. Vince Neil has not been able to sing to save his life at all, and they're all playing the tapes now anyway. So it's just the worst thing ever. And especially now, I think they're trying to quell it a little bit. Someone commented on a Mötley Crüe Facebook post saying, wow, I went to see him last year, it was all tapes, I'm not gonna go see them now. And they responded on the official Mötley Crüe account, all in caps, this is the summer tour footage, for fuck's sake. There were no backing tracks for band members. Fucking clown. The comment was then edited to remove fucking clown. But yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck this band. And let me just say, if if you went to go see if you bought tickets for them prior to all this stuff happening, okay, I could see it. Okay, they're going out with a stacked bill, Joan Jett, Def Leppard, whatever. I probably wouldn't go see it, but if you want to go see it, fair enough. But if you go see them now, you're an absolute moron. I'm sorry.
Like, there's some people who, are younger, who never got to see them back in their heyday and prime, and, if you see them now for your first time seeing Mötley Crüe, then fine, go ahead, that's fine, it's your choice. I mean, it's always your choice if you want to go to a show, but if you think you're getting, like, top-tier Mötley Crüe, if you think you're gonna hear the sound of Mötley Crüe, like, in their heyday, anytime in the modern, not even 2020s, but 2010s, then... Yeah, you're probably wasting your money if that's your aim to go.
Yeah.
If you just want to see Mötley Crüe for what they are today, don't know why you would, but if you want to see them for what they are today, then yeah, go ahead. But Mötley Crüe, at this point, even with John 5, is never going to sound the way that they did live back in the 80s, back in the 90s, back in the fucking 2000s. I mean, they got older. And with Mick Mars... like, leaving the band, Mick Mars had...
He was the talented one.
Yeah, he was a talented
one.
And he had the balls to finally say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Like, I physically cannot do the rigorous touring that Mötley Crüe still wants to do nowadays. Vince Neil's still up for it, Nikki Sixx is still up for it, okay, cool, but Mick Mars, he decided to say, hey... I can't do this anymore, and so he decided to bow out of it. Now, when I heard the news of Mick Mars leaving, how it was reported initially was that he was only leaving touring. Like, he would still be with the band, and so naturally from that, I think me and a lot of other people thought, oh, okay, well, he's gonna not show up on tour, but he's still gonna be there in the studio, right? He's still gonna be,
it's like Judas Priest, Glenn Tipton.
Yeah. Like, he's still going to be there. He might, if he can't play something, he'll probably offer input to a studio's musician who wants to play it, that sort of thing. But that's, what a lot of people thought the status quo was going to be, was that, Mick Mars would still be with the band, still, if they wanted to make new material at all, he'd be right there in the studio with them. And that'd be all fine and dandy. However, about, I want to say, like, a few weeks after the announcement came that Mick Mars was leaving touring, then the whole drama situation happened, where I don't know if you went over this earlier, but he basically got kicked out, and now Mick Mars is filing a lawsuit, or at least an attorney on behalf of Mick Mars is filing a lawsuit. And, there's been a back and forth of comments between the attorneys of both Mötley Crüe and Mick Mars, but basically, how Mötley Crüe says it, or how the attorney for Mötley Crüe says it, I should say, is that if you've left touring, you have left the band. And that's how they essentially viewed it. So, no longer is it about Mick Mars just leaving touring duties, just leaving the live shows, and still being a part of the band. I mean, he's a talented member. He's one of the integral members of the band. Not only is it a matter of him not leaving touring, it is a matter of him getting kicked out of the band because he physically cannot play anymore. And nobody said it at the time.
It's low-key ableist.
Yeah. Like, and like you said earlier, Vince Neil doesn't have a leg to stand on for that, and neither does fucking Nikki Sixx.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Vince Neil was never a great bass player. He was a good songwriter, at least in the early days.
You mean Nikki Sixx, bass player.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, Vince Neil, he can physically tour. He just doesn't sound good. That's the main thing. Mick Mars can't physically tour, but he can still play well. That's kind of the main thing. And even then, like, I've only seen Mötley Crüe once. I was maybe going to see him on the final tour, but I was like 16 or something like that. I didn't have a job. I couldn't go. No one wanted to pay for my tickets. So I was like, yeah, whatever. But I saw him in 2013 with Kiss. It was Kiss, Mötley Crüe, and Thin Lizzy. Well, Scab Thin Lizzy. I think it was the last tour Brian Downey played before he retired. And Thin Lizzy are pretty good, even though it's a cover band, but still cool to see songs like Cold Sweat live. And then Mötley Crüe, I thought were actually better than Kiss. I'm not lying. That is true. But I was like 13 or so, and I don't know, maybe if I looked at some bootlegs of that show, I'd be able to tell, wow, Vince didn't sound well. I thought he sounded okay. least for that show. And then Paul came out and started croaking. Yes, Paul's been croaking ever since 2013, and even before that. So yeah, I thought they were good, and even then, but even if you go see them now, that was still 10 years ago. I was 13. So if you go see them now, that's still not as good, you know? It's like, if you're not doing as good as 2013 Mötley Crüe, what's the point of even going on?
Yeah, it should be said before Oh, sorry, go on. Oh, okay, well, it should be said before we, keep talking about this. I mean, we're gonna keep talking about this, but it should be said.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna be, like, a podcast that delves into the big legal issues behind the whole thing. It's not gonna delve into all the responses back and forth, because, you can look up headlines for this and see what each camp is saying.
Yeah. Because maybe legally Mick Mars isn't in the right, but he should be, and it's bullshit that
Ethically.
they've propositioned it in a way that he is in the wrong or whatever, especially with, apparently, like, they signed a contract in 2008 that if you ever stop touring, you're basically out of the band. But they signed that in 2008. They knew about Mick's condition ever since they first got back together in 2004.
Which is kind of interesting when you say that, because sorry not to delay you any further, Caleb. It's interesting when you say that, because if they signed that contract all the way back in 2008, then this drama, in essence, really shouldn't be happening now. But when they reported,
it's lack of respect.
Yeah, again, when they reported that Mick Mars was going to be retiring from touring duties, that wasn't reported like he was leaving the band, and neither did Mötley Crüe say that Mick Mars was leaving the band. It just said he was leaving the touring duties.
They've been trying to get rid of Mick Mars ever since the 80s, because, like, when Mick Mars joined, he was, like, in his 30s, or if not close to it, and they're all, like 19-year-olds and stuff. And here's him in his 30s or whatever, and he wasn't a young buck. He didn't look as good as the other ones. They are apparently trying to kick him out and try and get Jakey Lee into the band. And Jakey Lee has said this himself. Yeah, they tried to get me to join Mötley Crüe. The absolute disrespect. Like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, you can sign a contract saying that if you're gonna leave touring, then you effectively leave the band. Okay, but
there shouldn't have been a contract.
No.
Like, okay, you might be in the right legally, but morally, you're still an absolute piece of shit.
Like, my question is then why does the term in that contract exist? Like, what? Okay, unless
it must have been just to fuck him over. It must have been just to fuck him over, because like we said, if any of them was going to stop touring first, it was going to be him.
It's either
because he was chronically ill.
It's either just to fuck him over and to be ageist, or it's to, like, I don't know if they ever intended to make new music in the future, like kind of the Kiss situation where Kiss, like, says again and again they're never going to make another album. I don't know, maybe Mötley Crüe never planned to make another new album ever again, and then that contract was signed, and at the time they were just like, yeah, we're not going to do anything new, whatever. But now it's like 2023, and, a lot of time has passed since 2006. I think the contract is kind of bullshit, at least in retrospect. But if it's a legally binding document, it's a legally binding document. But still, the whole moral and ethical concern around it just sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the guy who's been there since fucking day one. This guy wrote, like, he helped, like, write Livewire, Wildside, their Dr. Feelgood. Hello? Like, he came up with the name of the band. You can't get any further than that. They're in the studio again with Bob Rock. They're paying top dollar for Bob Rock because he doesn't want to fucking be there.
No.
Even then, I doubt they're going to be a full-length album. Their last full-length album was in 2008, and it sucked. Apparently, it was made up of 6 a.m. demos that they got Vince Neil to sing on. But yeah, besides that, they've done a song here or there. They did a song called Sex. They did a song called The End when they went on their final tour. They made 4 new songs for that Best Of compilation. There was a Best Of compilation called The Dirt, which, to coincide with the film, which makes sense. And they were all absolutely terrible. Like, actually dog shit. One of them was a cover of... a cover of Madonna's Like a Virgin. That's all you need to know. This band sucks. And that's kind of all I have to say. What do you think, Caleb?
You ever fucking notice? Okay, first of all, actually, their last song was called All Bad Things, but yes, it was terrible.
No. The Dirt came out when the movie came out.
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, it was called All Bad Things.
Yeah,
damn, it sucks that you know that.
It does. But anyway, like, You ever notice the thing with like a lot of these like old fucking bands, especially bands that are like really heavily associated with like cock rock and whatnot, is that they can never fucking help themselves. You know,
No.
like they realize around the middle of the life cycle that they're starting to lose their ability to play in the way that they used to. And so they're like, "Oh, we should probably hang it up." And not just that, it's also just the fact that they're getting sick of each other as people and whatnot. That was certainly the
Oh
case
no, they've
with
hated
Mötley
each other
Crüe.
since the fucking
Yeah, they've
90s. They
hated each
travel in
other for
separate
a long
buses.
time. Yeah, the dirt lies to you. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, and they break up, and then some fucking bullshit comes out of Hollywood most of the time. In Mötley Crüe's case, it was the dirt and a bunch of fucking Zoomers who aren't actually even all that interested in the music, but like they like what they saw.
Aesthetic.
They like the aesthetic. They flock to it for a time, and then the band suffers the delusion that they are still relevant, and so they fucking come back. And but then horrible fucking drama that just amounts to like legal shit most of the time ends up happening because they're like, "Oh shit, we forgot we kind of hate each other." And then they keep setting up tours and then canceling them for one reason or another. And you would think logically that that would stop after like 3 years or so, but no, it goes on for a long ass time. Kiss has been keeping it up for ages. Ozzy's been keeping it up for a while, or maybe he's been made to keep it up for a while. And here we have Mötley Crüe doing the same thing. Like the best thing you can hope for out of this is like maybe seeing them live, but even then, like it wouldn't even feel like a genuine live show because of the fucking most of what you hear is pre-recorded, and you know, like what isn't pre-recorded sounds like shit, especially the vocals. You're not going to hear any new music from them, and even if you did, it would be even worse than what they were doing in the 2000s. There's really no point in this band anymore, especially if you're like me and you don't even really like the shit they did after the early 80s. It's just it's just pure like, and the people who listen to this shit and like worship it, like hair metal and stuff, these are the same people who talk about how soulless and fake modern pop music is, and yet all of their favorite bands are more fucking like business oriented than they are art oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of good even pop music coming out recently. Like I'll say this, fucking Emotion by Carly Rae Jepsen, Curb Stomps, anything Mötley Crüe have done, I want to say at the very least since 1994, if not Shout the Devil.
I would say since like fucking Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I like the 1994 record because it doesn't sound like Mötley Crüe and they don't have Vince Neil. It like, and thing is, like, we're saying this, sure, we're not the biggest Mötley Crüe fans or whatever, but I kind of came around to that conclusion in hindsight. When I was growing up, I fucking love Mötley Crüe. Mötley Crüe, my dad's favorite band, so I heard
They were my favorite metal band at one point.
At least at one point, this came from a place of love. It's not like, okay, Drew doesn't like Mötley Crüe at all, but he can at least see that they're fucking over one of their members.
Right.
Where it's like, but like me and Caleb, you know, we love this shit, you know? Shout the Devil, say what you want, that's still a fantastic record. So it's not just, it isn't blind hatred. You know, if this was a band we didn't care about, we would just be like, yeah, that's happening, who cares? Like if a big drama was happening with Poison or something, you know?
Yeah, like if you've seen the very first James and Friends episode, the Mötley Crüe Generation Swine episode, like it's true.
Talk about jank.
It's jank, yeah, but okay, like it's true that none of us really liked what was going on in that album. I mean, there was some good moments here and there, according to other
some
people
songs
who were not me, but when it comes to like Mötley Crüe in general, another point of detachment that I have from this whole situation is that Caleb mentioned it earlier, where it was like older bands tend to just keep going on way past their prime just for the money. He mentioned Ozzy Osbourne, and I think another point of detachment and another difference between that is that, at least in Ozzy Osbourne's case, like he is still the main attraction, and he is the one who is being forced to go on stage and do all this shit. I can't say the same for the entirety of Mötley Crüe, And the only person this is affecting is Mick. Well, okay, it affects the whole band, but the person who got kicked out, who is not doing this stuff anymore, is Mick Mars. But at the same time, Mick Mars is also arguably the best remaining member of Mötley Crüe. So,
Yeah.
in essence, I mean, if he stops touring, he's getting what he wants and needs. He's stopping touring. And I don't know, like, this is where it gets kind of complex for me, because he's filing a lawsuit against Mötley Crüe, saying that they kicked him out, right? If he wanted to stop touring, and they let him stop touring, and this is me playing devil's advocate then, why would the lawsuit even be there? Is it because he's being, like, forced to retire from it?
It's basically like he still wanted to be a member of the band, like recording stuff or whatever. He has a home studio. He can still play. He just can't tour. Those are two very different things. And basically, like, they kind of tricked him into signing something where, like, instead of, like, still earning about 25% of the shares of Mötley Crüe, he'll instead just receive 5% of their next tour, and that's it. He's out of the band. I mean, it's saying all you need to know when they're recording right now with John 5.
Holy
when
shit,
they're recording.
Ouch.
Yeah, like, Mick Mars is always the most talented member. Tommy Lee is a good drummer, but I think people overrate him a lot. Like, he's a good drummer, and sure, he's better than maybe a lot of the drummers from that era, but there's not much separating him from a Bobby Blotzer or, like, a Mick Brown from Dokken, you know?
Honestly, even if like hypothetically his fucking illness were to go away in like a year or even less than a year, that's obviously not going to happen. But even if that were the case, like, this is probably for Mick Mars's own good.
He's an old man.
Yeah, and from what I've gathered, he just seems like he's the least toxic of the four members of Mötley Crüe, which of course isn't saying a whole lot, but like I've heard a lot less horror stories involving him.
Yeah, it's fucking, absolute poor shit. Like, if you go and see them live, I have less respect for you than if you literally toss that money into a garbage disposal.
I don't take it as far as James does on that, but
it's slightly joking, but slightly not. But anyway, I would like to talk about movies a good bit in this thing. I would like this to be media in general as a podcast, but mostly focused on music, because that's what we mostly talk about anyway. Dune Part 2 is coming out, and I'm really excited for it. Some new, like, stills have been shown off. Austin Butler is playing Fade Rotha, I believe, and he's bald, and the internet's having a ball with that. But yeah, I'm excited for it because, like, Dune has existed so long, and it's never really had an adaptation that really deserves the text. Like, the miniseries was okay. The David Lynch movie is an absolute disaster. I love David Lynch, but that was terrible. Denis Villeneuve knows what he's doing, and I'm really excited.
So, confession, the only, like, Dune-related thing I've actually seen is the first installment of Denis Villeneuve's adaptation, Dune Part 1. I haven't seen the second one. Honestly, I want to read the fucking book before I finish it, and I especially want to read the book before I fucking watch the David Lynch version, because even though I'm a huge David Lynch fan, Dune and The Straight Story are the only ones I've seen, and that's because I don't want to be thinking of David Lynch's Dune while reading Frank Herbert's work.
Drew's the mind killer, but all you can think of is fucking Sting in a fucking commando speedo.
Fucking hell. Even though I do like
Denis Villeneuve's Dune, from what I've heard about Frank Herbert's book, it's pretty dense in terms of its like socio-political commentary and like world building and stuff.
Yeah.
And Villeneuve's version, while enjoyable, does seem a bit like skeletal. But
yeah,
maybe I just need to like rewatch. I don't know.
I rewatched it recently, and there's a good bit of stuff in there. You can tell he really loves Dune and everything. You can tell that it's something he grew up watching.
I know that fans of Frank Herbert tend to really like it.
Yeah, it was done really well. I mean, besides that, I know Hodorowski didn't like it, but I think that's mainly because he's still kind of bitter.
I don't know if he saw it. I think he.
Oh no, he didn't. He saw the trailer and he said, "This is just like, standard. Yeah, this is just standard sci-fi." Where the only reason it seems standard sci-fi was because all sci-fi is built on the foundation that Dune built. Like Dune is the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi. So
Yeah,
it's one of those
that
things.
the
And
Foundation trilogy.
So it's funny.
yeah, and Arthur C. Clarke and stuff.
Funny you make
Yeah.
that comparison because I always, as a kid, and I'm the least familiar with Dune in this whole group, unless Nathan has anything to say about it. But
Nathan watched the first movie with me.
yeah, so I'm the least familiar with Dune because when I was growing up, I knew of Dune, I knew of its existence in like popular media, and I always thought, oh, so it's Star Wars but different. And so
Yeah,
when
no.
I started like hearing things about the new movie that had come out, I was like, oh, they're remaking Dune, another Hollywood remake. But then I heard, oh, it's actually good. And then these guys over here were talking about, you know, how the David Lynch movie was terrible, which I honestly, I still want to see it just for what it is. I wish
it's not like all bad. There's some interesting things going on because David Lynch made it. You know, there's some cool things here and there, and it is kind of enjoyable. But it is one of the worst adaptations I've seen in my life.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go one step further, and I'm gonna say I also wish that Jodorowsky made his version of Dune just so we could see what would happen.
Honestly, people kind of think like, oh yeah, if Jodorowsky got to make it, then it would have been amazing. No, it probably would have been a clusterfuck because everything I've seen of that makes it look like it would have been a clusterfuck. It might have been entertaining. It would have been the most interesting clusterfuck of all time. But like he said, he was practically raping Frank Herbert's as an analogy, which
There is a literal clip of this online. He says it word for word.
And he's like smiling so gleefully while he says it. I was raping him with love.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, but like,
anyway, it's one of the most influential movies that's never been made because H.R. Geiger was involved and he used a lot of the stuff he made for it on Alien. Like Jodorowsky used a lot of his ideas on the Inkle, and the Inkle is really influential as well. So I'm kind of glad it didn't get made because a lot of better things got made because of it.
That's an argument that I've heard like in favor of like it being a good thing it didn't get made, which I do find compelling.
And also it's one of those things where like this isn't a spoiler, but one of the things I don't like about David Lynch's Dune is the fact that David Lynch tried to make Paul into something equivalent to Luke Skywalker, which, look, without spoiling Dune, that is not the point of Dune. Like, Dune is not a white savior, like, hero story sort of thing, you know? And Jodorowsky wanted to literally make him Jesus. So that's much worse if you ask me.
I don't know, man. Holy Mountain worked pretty well when he made the main character Jesus.
I'm not gonna say that Jodorowsky is untalented because he clearly is very talented. I don't like the Holy Mountain, but that's because those kinds of movies don't appeal to me. And apparently the Inkle is really good. Maybe I'll try that one of these days. Even if it came out and it was amazing, it would have been a dog shit adaptation. So
The Shining by fucking Stanley Kubrick is technically not a good adaptation, but it's also one of the best horror movies ever made.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that, but yeah, even then that is also a terrible adaptation. And I love Stanley Kubrick, don't get me wrong, but calling a spade here.
I don't know. I do think like it's important to note, like it seems to me that the primary difference between like Lynch and Jodorowsky when it came to Dune was that like Jodorowsky was like blatantly, even though he was a fan of the series, he really was interested in just dicking around with Herbert's work for like his own purposes. It was still like a passion project for him. With David Lynch, I'm not sure he really cared all that much about Dune to begin with.
I think he kind of just wanted to take his career a bit further and make, helm a project that had a budget in the tens of millions, and then it didn't work in the slightest, and they said, fuck this! So he made Blue Velvet. And like everything David Lynch has made since has kind of been in retaliation of what happened with Dune. So
it's
in a way, it's a good thing.
He now insists on having final cut every time.
And people keep trying to ask David Lynch what he thinks about it, and he keeps on saying, I don't want to know about it. It's like, it's not even he doesn't care, it's that I don't want to know. He actively doesn't want to know, which is fair because that's a really dark period of his life. That's when he thought his career was over. And people are saying like, "Oh, he's just mad." No, he isn't mad. He made Twin Peaks. He'll be fine.
I still wanna know how all possible avenues of like adapting Dune would have gone. Like, yeah, if it would have been
a documentary that's apparently really good.
It would have been a clusterfuck if Jodorowsky made Dune, but from what I hear, it's also kind of a clusterfuck when David Lynch made Dune.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
So, like, when I hear about Dune and, like, I do kind of want to get into it, but now I'm like, do I read the Frank Herbert book first, which is obviously what I should probably do.
The book first,
Or-
and then have fun with the adaptations.
Okay. So, like, which adaptation would I start with then? Because if I start with, like, the newest films, then obviously those are going to be, like, the best ones to start with.
There's no right or wrong way, really.
Best in quality, I mean, not best in...
Best in quality, read the book, then watch the Villeneuve film. Then try and have some fun with the David Lynch version, and then maybe the miniseries. The miniseries is actually a good adaptation.
The miniseries is actually not bad.
It's not bad. It's a good adaptation, but like they had no budget at all, and the CGI is really bad. Yeah. So should we go into viewer questions?
If we have no other topics to talk about, well, actually no, it was a viewer question that they brought up. So yeah.
Yeah.
If we have no other topics to talk about, we can get into viewer questions.
Okay, and this will be the first viewer question. So keep an eye out on the community tab and also the Discord server, because we'll occasionally ask for viewer questions. I've gotten 2 comments about Aerosmith. It also like ties into current events, but Aerosmith are gonna be retiring soon, and I could have sworn they announced the farewell tour like 5 years ago. And I feel like a Mandela effect thing going on now.
Fuck Aerosmith, fuck Steven Tyler, fucking Predator.
You say that, but you did put in a Led Zeppelin song in the Watch Together just before, so...
Oh yeah, but Led Zeppelin aren't together.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I always thought Aerosmith was one of those bands where it was like Journey.
Guitar Hero band?
Yeah.
No. I don't know. Journey is like some of that corporate rock stuff, which Aerosmith weren't really like that. They were just a ramble-tamble type of rock and roll band sort of thing. I wouldn't call them...
maybe.
Yeah, in the 90s and even the 80s, they kind of became corporate rock. I won't deny that. From PThack88, with Aerosmith announcing their final tour, what is your favorite song by them? Now, here's the thing. I actually do like some Aerosmith. I like some classic Aerosmith, their 70s shit. Toys in the Attic's a pretty great song. I like Rocks. The Pump is a good record. And overall, they're a hard band to like really defend because they didn't really bring much new to the table, sort of thing. They were just a good rock and roll band.
They got big from their own wave.
I guess you could say that. But my favorite song of theirs is probably either No More, No More, or Lickin' a Promise, or Fine from Pump. But after Pump, you don't need anything they've ever done. You can stop right there.
I would be lying if I said that I knew like any of Aerosmith's deep cuts. I like a few of their singles. Dream On's a cool song. Janie's Got a Gun, a few others, but like for the most part, they're just like one of those bands that like if you're under the age of like 30, you probably don't give a single fuck about them. Like you could call like Led Zeppelin or something dad rock or whatever, but Led Zeppelin are still like highly regarded today in like critical circles, and they still have a lot of like younger fans, you know. But like Aerosmith, like who are they fucking relevant? How are they culturally relevant in like any way nowadays? Like,
well,
they
like
just yeah.
I think if Aerosmith were similar to Led Zeppelin, having quit before the 80s really began, I think they would be remembered more fondly. Like whenever you think of them, you'd think of Sweet Emotion, and you wouldn't think of Ragdoll or the Run DMC Walk This Way thing, where they just basically became sellouts.
I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. That was like a number one hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that was one of the biggest hits of like the 90s. So I think they would have like had a much better legacy, sort of, if they kind of stopped there. Because, like, if they had a similar thing to Led Zeppelin, not saying, like, Led Zeppelin 4 would be as highly regarded as Rocks, but, you know, at a similar somewhat level and a similar breath, you might mention Aerosmith as well. That's what I think.
They would probably be remembered as, like, an okay, like, B-tier rock band if they fucking quit in, like, the 70s.
If I had to pick, like, a favorite song from Aerosmith, which is a band that I avoid listening to, that I have not listened to any albums in full from, and I've only heard the hits from. I think my favorite song would probably just be Sweet Emotion, just because it's the least offensively bad to my ears. And this isn't
it's
like...
It's a good song.
Yeah, okay, I like the riff to it, I like the chorus to it. There are good parts to the song. I think a close second would be Dream On. But, I don't know, when it comes to Aerosmith, among other classic rock bands that didn't really bring much to the table, as James said. It's like a song that I can tolerate the most. Like, if I had Sweet Emotion in any of my playlists, like, at the moment, it would probably be the first to go once I started, cleaning house on those playlists. Because, at the end of the day, even though there are good parts to that song, overplaying is part of the problem, but also the fact that it's just, when you get to the meat and potatoes of how the song is made and how, in general, it sounds, what is there that you can't find anywhere else? Like, listen to Led Zeppelin, and even then, Led Zeppelin
I like
do that
Steven
much.
Tyler's vocals much more than Robert Plant. But I don't care for Led Zeppelin, so take that for what it's worth. I've never cared for Led Zeppelin in the slightest.
I will say,
They
though,
have always bored me.
the one thing that Aerosmith did well on was making Dream On.
Guitar Hero?
Well, okay, no. So, for Dream On, the thing that Aerosmith did well was making the original song, because when Eminem sampled it in Sing for the Moment, it was god-awful. It made the original sound good.
It was good in Sing for the Moment.
Nope.
I like that song.
Nope. Sing for the Moment's shit.
Drew just has a bit of a hate boner towards fucking Eminem. He's like Machine Gun Kelly.
There are worse people to have a hate boner towards.
By the way,
Yeah, like
James
Machine Gun Kelly.
By the way, James said he's like Machine Gun Kelly. He didn't say he likes Machine Gun Kelly. That would be a false statement.
No. That is slander right there. I'm not doing that. Don't worry.
Both of those things would be slander.
This is a question from, this is my favorite comment, my favorite name I've seen all day, from Haas Das Boss. Y'all got any opinions on big prog bands? Rush. He meant Pink Floyd, but he wrote Punk Floyd, and I find that funny.
Nice.
Genesis, yes. King Crimson, Jethro Tull, ELP. Here's the thing. Caleb likes some prog. I know Nathan does too. I know he's not here, but I'll speak for him a little bit. Me and Drew are kind of in a similar boat, but Drew is slightly more lenient than I am. Me and Drew basically both agree that fucking Pink Floyd peaked with the first record. So put it that way. I don't like any prog I've heard. I've tried to give Pink Floyd, Genesis, and all that kind of stuff a listen. I just it doesn't do anything for me in the slightest. I do like some Rush I've heard. Permanent Waves is a great record. I like Moving Pictures, but that's mainly when they kind of started to sell out. So that's the stuff I like. I've only listened to 2112 once, and I remember it not doing much for me. And that's when I was trying to get into them. Yeah, Permanent Waves to Signals. I like those 3 or 4 records of Rush. I don't like anything else besides a song or two. But yeah, don't care for prog at all. I like prog mixed in with some other music sometimes, but that's about it. Like progressive song structures and bands that aren't traditionally prog. But that's it.
If I'm gonna go through like the list real quickly here, like Rush, no, don't like him. I don't like him at all. Punk Floyd, I'm kidding. Pink Floyd. I wouldn't say Pink Floyd peaked with their first album. Like their first 3 albums are good. I would say that.
Syd Barrett was the best member. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Syd Barrett was absolutely the best member. In fact, the only reason that the third album is included in that is because Syd Barrett's writing is included with a good amount of songs on those, if I recall correctly. It's either that or Pink Floyd was still good.
Just the first 2.
Oh, not the third? Okay, well, I don't know why I like the third.
Well, his
then.
influence was definitely heard.
But Syd Barrett, was the best member of the band in my opinion. And Syd Barrett's solo stuff is also pretty good. But as for Pink Floyd in general, I'm not on the bandwagon of thinking that Dark Side of the Moon is like a 10 out of 10 album. I know there's good songs on it, definitely, like Time, obviously, and like some of the bigger hits off the album, even in some of the deep cuts too. But
somewhat hot take: "The Great Gig in the Sky" is the best song off that album.
It is up there.
It's one of the best. I'll give you that. It is one of the best. But like Pink Floyd, after Syd Barrett left, gradually just went downhill. Now, Dark Side of the Moon is kind of, an upturn a little bit. It's that little tiny little hill in the roller coaster, let's say, where it's like a slight like elevation. If we're gonna look at Animals and Umaguma and
Amagama
and other
How
albums
the fuck
that
are
they've
you
done.
gonna put Animals and Umaguma in the same breath?
Dude, I'm sorry. When it comes to Pink Floyd, like, I'm incredibly picky, and if it's not the first 3 albums, then just nothing from there. Genesis, I don't hate Genesis as much as I hate Rush, but I can't really say that
I hate Genesis far more.
I can't
Phil
say
Collins needs to be publicly executed.
I agree with you on that. Phil Collins is probably the single worst thing to happen to popular music, at least. Prog music, maybe not, but...
Though then again, the worst stuff Phil Collins ever did was when he went solo. At least with Genesis, he had some good musicians behind him. Like, Land of Confusion is kind of okay, so he's got to get that going for him.
When it comes to Yes, I say no.
No.
When it comes to King Crimson, okay, King Crimson, besides Pink Floyd, I think would be are the best in this whole list. They're the second best compared to Pink Floyd, and that's not even saying much because I only think the first 3 Pink Floyd albums are that great.
That was Kale has played me a couple of songs of King Crimson that I actually don't mind. I actually don't hate.
Yeah.
So they've got that going for them. And hot take, I preferred what Kanye West did with in the Hall of the Crimson King than what they did. So
Power's
crucified
a good
me.
song, but that's still a cringe opinion.
Oh yeah, well the King Crimson song isn't in Saints Row 3, so eat a dick.
King Crimson doing prog is okay when it sounds like it's rooted in that psychedelic sound. I'm not much a fan of like of 21st century Schizoid Man. On first hearing it, I'm like, it's all right. But like now that I listen to it again and again, I'm just like, I'm just not a fan of it. Like the horn section and everything else going on with it, it's not clicking with me on that one. Jethro Tull, never heard of him, and LP or ELP.
You never heard Jethro Tull?
No, never checked them out.
No. You know, it's the only time I've never actually heard any Jethro Tull besides
heard
bits and
Thick as
pieces.
a Brick before. I guess you forgot.
Yeah, I probably
That's
forgot.
fair.
So there we go. I don't have no opinion on them.
I haven't heard much of their music, but the only time I've ever really been exposed to them was when I was getting into Metallica as a young kid. My dad was saying like, "Oh yeah, it was between them, Mötley Crüe, and I think Dokken for the first ever metal Grammy." And it was all up in the air. It was probably either going to be Mötley Crüe or probably more than likely Metallica, I think for best metal performance. But then Alice Cooper and Lita Ford came out and read off Jethro Tull winning the first ever fucking metal Grammy. And I remember thinking, oh, that's not that bad. I have no idea. I thought Jethro Tull was a metal band. I had no idea. Then my dad just looked at me and said, he plays a flute. And the absolute, just like, the disdain in his voice made me understand everything.
I don't know how Jethro Tull could even be, like, considered a metal band.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that album. I don't even know what album that is. So, who knows? Caleb, you like prog, right?
Yes, I actually do really love a lot of the fucking like 70s like English prog bands and stuff. Having said that, even though I do really really enjoy like Yes and Genesis and stuff like that, those bands have a special place in my heart. Selling England is in my top 10 of all time, but like I do tend to gravitate more towards like the darker and more like experimental prog bands. Of that time, especially, you know, King Crimson, Gentle Giant, Vandergraaf Generator, shit like that. And I like a lot of modern music that's influenced by prog, but is like kind of avant-garde in nature. Like, you know, Maudlin of the Well and K.O. Dot are like two of my favorite bands of all time. My favorite musician is probably Frank Zappa, and I don't know if you could fully consider him prog because
if he is, he's the best prog artist.
Yeah, he kind of transcends that label, and also a lot of German like krautrock stuff, like Can I fucking love. But yeah, I'm definitely me and Nathan are a lot friendlier towards progressive music than James and Druid. James loves progressive politics, but he does not like progressive music.
Yeah. I've said this before. I like my politics progressive and my music regressive. I want to go back to cavemen banging on sticks and rocks.
He's a Pantera
That was a
fan.
peak right there. Exactly. Anyway, so okay, there's a couple of questions that are kind of more geared to me, so I'll just quickly talk about them now. Scarface 95 Abel. God, these are some weird fucking names. I caught a glimpse of a vinyl copy of Badlands' first album, the background of some of your videos, so I was wondering, what are your thoughts on that band? I think they're really good. I think they're a really underrated kind of era of just plain simple hard rock that was coming out around the time, along with Guns N' Roses and everything. They just didn't really get much of a break, I guess, because they didn't have the same kind of flair as Guns N' Roses did. They were just a good hard rock band, but they didn't have a gimmick to latch onto. So, but yeah, that's like some of like Jakey Lee's greatest guitar playing.
The 80s thought of them, especially the ones that met the vocalist.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Ray Gillen. To those who don't know, Ray Gillen was the singer of that band. And he had AIDS, which already blows ass. And while he knew he had AIDS, he still slept with a bunch of women unprotected. He's kind of a piece of shit. And then he died. And now none of those records are in stock at all. You can't even find them on Spotify. And Jakey Lee's been trying for years to at least get those records out for people to hear, because they're just out of print now, and that fucking blows ass. Like, I have a copy of the first album on vinyl, which I inherited from my mother. And like, that album, even though it's not in the best shape, I could probably at least get $100 for it if I wanted to sell it, which sucks. Like, more people should be able to hear it. Like, if you want to hear it now, you have to go on YouTube. I know you don't care for him, Caleb, and Drew, I doubt you even know what we're talking about.
No, I have no idea about Badlands at all.
Here's one from old-time subscriber Matthew F. Bridges. What bands do you think are likely to reunite in the next coming years? In brackets, Oasis. And what bands could have a good biopic made about them if done right? I'm sick of biopics. So many of them are so, like, the same, and, like, they go for the same thing. I talk about this in my Pistol video. Ever since Bohemian Rhapsody, they just become, like, Oscar bait, and I don't like much of the ones I've seen. Like, the best music-based one I've seen is probably Love and Mercy, about Brian Wilson. That's a really good one. But as for other artists, I don't know. I don't really want to see. I don't really want to see them. Besides, like, was it the guy from Dissection or something? I remember you bringing that up, Caleb, and like
John Satan guy.
Yeah, get the guy who made the August Underground movies to make that biopic or something. I can't really think of any on maybe the Ramones, but that's kind of coming soon anyway. But the Ramones don't really have a story that could fit for that. And even the biopics I like Straight Outta Compton, it's good. But it suffers because it follows that same mold that all those other ones are following. Bohemian Rhapsody is aged really poorly. As for bands I think are likely to reunite, I don't know. I mean, I guess Oasis probably, more than likely sooner rather than later. But I don't know, all the bands we like are getting really old. Doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. What do you guys think?
I mean, I guess to answer the first question, it's kind of a niche answer, but I think Sorority Noise, which is like a punk/indie band that I listen to, I think they're kind of due for a reunion at this point. I know that there's been some, like, allegations against the frontman, which have since been, I think, either disproven or dropped.
Speaking of that, I guess Brand New, which is another thing where there's allegations against the singer.
Right.
And they just kind of quietly went away.
Distillers might also unite again.
What do you mean? They've been together since 2018.
Well, I mean, actually making new music.
Yeah. Well, they released one double A side and that was it. I put off releasing that Distillers retrospective for years, so I finally said, fuck it, and I just uploaded it. Because, like, I can only wait so long.
To answer the second question, what bands would have a good biopic? Off of the top of my head, I really can't think of any. Like, I would have said the Flaming Lips, but honestly, Flaming Lips history doesn't have a lot of drama or interesting points in it. Like, the most you could, like, make a movie about is lineup changes, and that's it. If you had somebody who was, like, well-versed in the scene, you could probably do a biopic on a band like either Death or Morbid Angel, but it's too much of a danger zone because it could fall into Lords of Chaos territory, and we don't want that again, so.
I can't really think of many bands off the top of my head who I think will do a reunion soon. There's a lot of bands who I would like to do one, but, like...
Yeah, same.
I don't know. So, I mean, as far as biopics are concerned, I generally share James's cynicism about them, but I will say, even though I know that there's, like, a new Michael Jackson biopic coming out, like, next year or something.
Yeah.
I do think if it were in the hands of the right filmmaker, a movie that was specifically about, like, the last couple years or so of Michael Jackson's life when he was really fucked up on drugs and had horrible chronic pain and shit, like, just about, like, his relationship with Conrad Murray, I think you could make a good film out of that.
Someone tried to do that for Johnny Thunder's, like, last, like, month or so alive or something, but they made it into a psychological horror film, which is kind of in bad taste considering the fact the guy died of a drug overdose in the fetal position, and that's kind of bad taste. you know.
Well, yeah, you'd have to be careful about how you.
Yeah,
did it,
I'm not.
but that
I'm not
doesn't-
saying it's gonna be like that necessarily. And speaking of which, thank God the Madonna biopic that she was set to direct got canceled. So thank God, that would have been a
Well,
missed a bullet there.
Donna has one good album, and it's Ray of Light. Everything else ranges from meh to.
Causing Commotion is a banger. I can't say much else good things about her.
Yeah, she has some good
Chris-
songs outside of
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Chris Harness TV. I don't think you guys care for the Misfits, but he's basically saying, would I be excited to see a 90s resurrection of the 90s lineup? I would like to see it, but like I can't say I would be too excited about it because they wouldn't come to Australia anyway, and even if they did, I'll be wondering why the Glenn Danzig fronted version of the Misfits isn't coming to Australia, because I'd much rather see that. You know, if they came with Michael Graves, yeah, sure, I'd go see it, because Michael Graves can still sing. He could probably sing better than Danzig nowadays, at least sing his own material better than Danzig can. I almost went to go see Michael Graves a few years ago do a solo set of Misfit songs, but it was just a bad time. I was slogged with work. The trains weren't running at that time. I'd have to get a bus all the way to the city, which would have taken like 3 hours, and I didn't want to do that. So yeah, I missed out on that, and I'm probably never going to support Michael Graves ever again. Not as if besides listening to his Misfits albums I was going to anyway. But yeah, you guys don't care about the Misfits, do you?
I don't know. I mean,
I
don't know.
I wouldn't be against something like that happening, but I wouldn't really care.
I wouldn't be against it either.
Yeah, well, I've only ever played you guys Danzig Misfits. I think I've only ever played Famous Monsters like once and watched together, and
I've
that's
heard
it.
Misfits songs.
I've tried listening to Michael Graves' Misfits after Needle Drop like slathered like not. He doesn't think Michael Graves is good. Okay, it's weird. I hate Danzig solo, but I like Danzig Misfits.
You like Danzig 4. You like Danzig 4 when I
Okay,
played it
Danzig
for
4 is okay, but I do not like Danzig solo in like any other context. But I like Danzig Misfits. Like I can't name really much off the top of my head because like the only time I've heard it is when we played it and watched together. But
I remember you really liking Static Age when I played it for you.
yeah, Static Age is a good album. That's the one that I have gone back to a few times.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
But if there was
We
like
agree.
a limited amount of shows for like the Michael Graves like 90s era reunion, I guess it would be a reason to go see Misfits live. But if Danzig's not in there, then
Just go there in like a gothic Trump-inspired getup, like build that wall, or something like that. This is a funny one from Logan Shriver. How many substances would it take for you to sit through Adrenalize?
ooh,
In all seriousness, probably not much. We'd probably only do it for James and Friends, but we've already done Hysteria, and we talked about this a little bit, but I want to take James and Friends to a more different direction where we talk about albums I would never discuss in a normal video. Like the next one we're probably going to do somewhat soon is Creed. So that's give you an idea of the kind of weird shit we want to do. Glam rock or music? Who do you think is better, Kiss or Van Halen? I like Kiss, but come on, Van Halen.
Van Halen.
Van Halen.
Van Halen. Like, okay, I don't really listen to both of them, obviously, but I would take Van Halen 1,000 times over Kiss. Like, Kiss has stage presence. Alright.
They both have lead singers who can't sing anymore. They have that going for them.
Yeah. But at least with Van Halen, you have a chance of getting, like, a decent singer again. With Kiss, you have no chance. It's gonna be either Gene or Paul. And...
Well, Gene can still sing. You just don't but you have to kind of like Gene's voice to begin with.
Right.
And even if I just consider the classic era for both bands, and when I say classic for Van Halen, I mean only David Lee Roth, Sammy Hagar, Goes to Hell, and Can Burn in Hell. Even then, the six-pack from Van Halen destroys most, if not all, of Kiss's classic output, except for maybe Creatures of the Night and like Alive. But that's it. Frank Ferry, what got you into the music you're into? Kiss. Kiss, when I was really young, I had a VHS tape with like all of their music videos that I watched religiously, and I loved the shit out of it. And from there, I got into Mötley Crüe, Metallica, Baby's first hard rock and metal bands. I didn't really start getting my own taste until I started getting into like, Blink 182, and a lot of the pop punk when I was in high school. Then I developed more of a taste for, like punk and more thrash and just Metallica, like your Megadeth and whatnot. Kiss is the ground zero for me. So
For me,
that's only slightly embarrassing to admit.
For me, I used to have a Sony Walkman, and I would just listen to like popular radio stations all the time when I
How
was little.
How? I've never owned a Walkman, and I'm older than you.
It was my grandfather's. He lent it to me one time. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
fair.
I used to listen to that thing like day in, day out. And then once I discovered YouTube and started like searching all the songs that I was hearing and trying to find them based on lyrics that I heard, that's when I started to develop my taste in music. But it's gone through like so many twists and turns since that point that I really couldn't say.
Is there a band you can like point to as being that's them? Like or something like that?
MGMT.
I've never heard much MGMT. I gotta listen to more of them because I remember when like the songs they consider sellouts, like Kids and Electric Feel came out. Dude, I had Electric Feel, that music video. I had that on my iPod Nano.
Oh yeah, speaking of iPod, I mean, like I had an iPod Nano as well, and having iTunes was like opening up a whole new world of music for me. Like that's how I bought MGMT music, but that's also how I got Queens of the Stone Age like on the brain, because I heard Like Clockwork when that album came out, and from then on I was a fan of theirs. Like I just listened to all of their stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What say you, Caleb?
Ground Zero is I mean, I've been listening to music since like I was like a very, very small child, but I used to just listen to whatever like adults around me listen to, and I would enjoy it. But I think the first like artist who I really fell in love with on like my own terms and like started to like explore independently, and who kind of like set me on like my journey of like being like a big like music fan was probably Michael Jackson. Because
Fair.
like I didn't like him because I thought his music sounded good. I admired how like immensely talented he was. And I can still, even though I'm not like as huge on him as I was before, I still really like his first 3 albums, and after that I still like a fair bit of songs he did. Yeah, I'd probably say Michael Jackson.
I remember like back when you'd see like those shows like that, at least in Australia, there would be shows that every Sunday morning would play just like a bunch of music videos, and whenever there was Michael Jackson, I was glued to the screen because that man had just had such a way of performing and just getting across exactly what it needed to. Like, yeah.
When I
like
saw
I like Prince way more. Like, like looking back, but Prince doesn't hold a space in my heart like Michael Jackson does.
Yeah, when I saw Michael Jackson's face on a screen in the mid 2000s, that left an imprint on my brain.
Ah!
Damn it.
I was sick with a stomach bug, a really bad stomach bug, on the day it was announced that Michael Jackson died. So I will always remember that day. Anyway, so I think that's all the YouTube comments.
No, we have one from Thomas Brand. He asks top 10 favorite bands / artists.
Oh, fuck yeah, I'm an idiot. I literally saw it, but my mind skipped over it. And look, we won't go through our top 10 because that takes organization. We'll just give some of our favorite bands.
I mean, luckily I pre-organized mine, but you go ahead.
I have mine organized.
Okay, well, fuck you. Well, it's. I probably saw this comment before you guys.
We got
Whatever.
prepared for the podcast more than you did, and you're the
I'm an
host.
obsessive list maker, man.
Okay, I'm just gonna load up my Spotify. My favorite all-time band is The Replacements. My cry in the corner type of music, and they can also really go off the rails at times and everything. Just the way they can just express their music and everything. Like, alternative music peaked with albums like Let It Be, Tim, Pleased to Meet Me. Like, that is just by far my favorite band. Like, I still really want them to reunite one day, even though I know they don't want to. Besides that, there's Depeche Mode, which I'm working on a retrospective soon. It's still in the scripting phase, and it's already the longest video I've ever written, so that's going to take a long time. Besides that, The Damned, Descendants. Fuck, I'm probably forgetting some band. Blink-182, just because I listened to so much in my time. Early Jimmy Eat World means a lot to me. The Smiths. Just look at any band I've done a retrospective on. The Ramones. Fuck, Megadeth, Skid Row, Faith No More. That's a roundabout list, I guess. Jawbreaker.
Yeah, for me, I've ordered like from 1 to 10. So number 1 is MGMT. I already said that earlier. Number 2 is Flaming Lips. Number 3 is Duster. Number 4 is Queens of the Stone Age. James, you can make a comment about it all you want. I don't fucking care. Number 5.
Look, I don't mind them too. Like, I like some songs, but I'll just always make fun of the fact that Josh Homme is a psychopath.
Number 5 is Slow Dive. Number 6 is Teen Suicide. Caleb, you can make a joke about that too.
Don't do
I
it.
will.
Number
Teen
7.
Suicide, don't do it.
Number 7, My Bloody Valentine. Number 6, Sadness, which is a black metal, post-black metal thing. Number 9...
Sorry to hear that.
Number 9, Silver Sun Pickups, before a certain album. And number 10, Deaf Heaven, before their last album.
Okay, my favorite band is probably the Mothers of Invention, just slash Frank Zappa. King Diamond, Diamanda Galas, Dead Can Dance, King Crimson, Maudlin of the Well, KO Dot, Devil Doll, and Deathspell Omega.
Deathspell Omega at the bottom. That's, wow. Above KO Dot, too. or below KO Dot, too.
Okay, and we got some in our Discord. I expected to get more from our Discord. Wow, you guys suck.
We literally posted the thing like a day before, so I mean...
Yeah, but shut up, do better. Okay, Medium Chungus gave us a question, which, okay, I'm just gonna say this right now. Next time we do questions, avoid questions like, what do you think of insert band here? Because if we don't have much of an opinion, we can't say much about it. Okay, he said Alkaline Trio. I don't care for them in the slightest. I don't hate them, though the best thing they ever did was the fact that there's this music video that I keep using because I find it hilarious, of a bunch of old men, literally called disgruntled old men, covering an Alkaline Trio song, and it is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's the best I can say for Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, I haven't checked them out.
Basically, all you need to know is he replaced Tom DeLonge in Blink-182, and they released some of the worst pop punk I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, I know, those albums suck. I've heard them.
Which I know is not Alkaline Trio. Apparently, they're much better than what his output in Blink-182 would lead you to believe. But I'm still holding it against him.
And I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait.
Oh God, you know, it's like, yeah. For those who don't know, one of the singles off the last Blink-182 record is a song called Dark Side, which has a bunch of kids Fortnite dancing. And I'm not gonna make fun of the kids, because fuck, I probably would have done something similar if I could at that age. Being in a music video for Blink-182, sign me up. But I've never felt so old at 21 than when watching that music video.
I clicked that music video, and within the first second, I clicked off of it.
I do not blame you in the slightest. And the song itself isn't that bad. Like, the song itself isn't even that bad, but god dang it.
The lyrics make it really bad.
Yeah, the lyrics aren't too great. It's about basically simping for a goth girl.
She's a goth girl. She's a pop girl.
Alright, we got one from Spaceman. 5 albums that are important to you. I mean, 5 albums that defined you at some points of your lives. Oh, fuck, it's a deep one.
That's good.
Oh, shit. Let It Be by The Replacements. Violator, Depeche Mode. Machine Gun Etiquette, The Damned. Yeah, I'm just gonna go... Again, I'm so lazy. It's like when people ask me about my favorite movies. So I just load up Letterboxd because like my brain just goes to mush. Blink-182 self-titled. Fucking Ride the Lightning, Metallica. Rust in Peace, Megadeth. Molly Goes to College, Descendants. I'm already giving you more than you need. But, you know, those kinds of albums mean a lot to me. The Queen is Dead.
Okay, so we're not just talking like 5 favorite albums. We're talking about like albums that have like defined us and like shaped us as like fans of like music and shit.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Fucking Michael Jackson's Thriller, obviously.
I think that defines everyone, whether they like it or not, to an extent.
Yeah.
No, not me. Not me.
Okay,
including you. Oh fuck! Also, Pet Sounds. Sorry.
Yeah. So that one, Fate's Warnings, Awaken the Guardian. That was my favorite album for years. It's not quite there anymore, but it's still in like my top 5. Fucking John Arch's vocals, the songwriting, it kind of like changed the way that I like think about music and stuff. I'm a lot more like discerning about shit now that I've heard that and like thought about it a lot. Fucking Bjork's Vespertine. I remember in like 2019 I listened to that album while I was like laying in bed, and I had like what almost seemed like an out-of-body experience listening to it. Probably the most powerful like experience I've had with music, honestly. Swans to Be Kind, just like, I don't know, it helped me appreciate like repetition and shit instead of just like, you know, a bajillion notes and stuff. So that one. And
Dot's Choirs of the Eye, just because of how like dynamic and like interesting the songwriting is. So probably those five are the ones that have like impacted me the most.
I don't know if I could choose 5. I don't know if I can meet the 5 quota, because when it comes to like...
Dude, I already fucking cheated. I
Okay.
already cheated. Who cares?
So,
without even realizing it.
So, I mean, there is the MGMT self-titled, which, you know, I love bringing up MGMT whenever I can, obviously, but the self-titled was one where, like, it was my first introduction to, like, the most psychedelic music and the most, like, entrancing production and performances that I've, like, heard, and, like, it still wows me to this day how they managed to do that album. That one carried me through, like, high school and middle school and shit, just, like, right there. There's also, of course, Sunbather by Deaf Heaven. That one is kind of a meme for me. I like to say it's the album that introduced me to major key in metal, but really what it did was that, like, when I came to that album and listened to it, it was just, like, it came to me at the right point in life where I was like, hey, you know what? I can listen to actually, like, happy music and not feel like I'm disconnected from it. Like, it struck a note with me where I'm like, hey, I actually, you know, like this sound, and it actually kind of matches the mood, and, you know, it goes on from there. I don't know if it would define me, though. This is kind of a hard question. It's a hard question.
It's a loaded question. Damn you, Spaceman.
I mean, like Clockwork by Queens of the Stone Age, even though most of it is mostly, like, Josh Homme's personal story about, like, his near-death experience, a lot of the lyrics on that
Kicking a
album,
woman in the face for no reason.
Before that point, a lot of the lyrics on the album, though, they do deal in like sorrow and, again, near death and heartbreak and shit like that. And where I was when I was 13, I mean, obviously when everybody's 13, they deal with that sort of shit, but it kind of helped shape me as well. A recent example too would be well, not recent in term of release, but in term of I heard it, is Stratosphere by Duster. That one's another one that I think has kind of shaped my musical taste, at least in terms of what I like to listen to nowadays, because now I'm into, like, lo-fi, slowcore type stuff. That's, like, 3, and I think the 4th and, for now, final one would be The Terror by the Flaming Lips, because next to the MGMT self-titled, that one also kind of struck that itch for, like, music that not only entranced me, like, in terms of, you know, production and sound and whatnot, but also just in the general, like, atmosphere and the mood that it was going for, and that's also what I really, really love to hear in music. But in comparison to the MGMT self-titled, that one takes a way darker approach to it, and when it comes to, like, my moodier points in my life, that one was also on constant replay. But
right.
I don't know, like, actually defining me.
It's a loaded question. It's a loaded question. Like, if you guys don't mind, I think I actually might want to say my answer, because I just said a bunch of shit, but I didn't really explain it.
Go ahead.
Either Master Puppets or Ride the Lightning, either of those can work for Metallica. I would like to say really finding my own music that isn't anybody else's, even though my parents did enjoy Metallica, but just really, like, studying records like that and just really being enveloped by the sound, even on the speakers of, like, my shitty, like, old box TV that I used to, like, play like fucking Guitar Hero games on. And obviously even though it didn't sound good in the slightest, it still just really hit the spot for me, and just it really enveloping, like, aggressive sound, like, that's almost apocalyptic sort of thing. Replacements, Let It Be, like, if you ever want to cry at, like, 1 a.m, just listen to, like, Unsatisfied or 16 Blue or some of those songs that I'd like to think really help me kind of get in touch with my emotions a bit more. And then there's also, like, there's songs like Androgynous, which is, like, stuff they're saying in the 80s, which is, like, progressive even by today's standards, which really made me, like, double think a lot of the things I knew about gender and just sexual and gender identity and stuff like that. Even though that was back when I was probably at the height of my anti-SJW phase and stuff like that, but, like, it was still, like, able to, like, kind of persuade me even though I didn't realize it. Depeche Mode Violator, and just, like, the soundscapes that can create. Like, get yourself a nice pair of headphones and listen to a song like Waiting for the Nights, or, like, Blue Dress, Enjoy the Silence, you know, Personal Jesus, all those kinds of songs, because just, like, if you want to learn how to mix or produce, like, music that's even vaguely electronic, study that record. That's all I can say. Again, it's really enveloping and stuff like that, and like with lyrics that aren't quite really sad, but just like are really relatable in a way, even when they seem kind of almost idiosyncratic. Faith No More's Angel Dust. I remember thinking, like, first time I ever really listened to that when I was like 15, I'm like, wow, music can be like this. You know, just like such like a crazy like audio experience where like that was probably the first time I realized like, okay, something can be more than just catchy or something for me to like it. It can like really challenge you. And if it challenges you in a good way, then you'll almost like it by default, if that makes any sense. That album was like my first experience with like a lot of sampling, harsh noise elements and stuff like that, while still having a lot of hooks and big juicy guitar tone and with a lot of atmosphere.
The fifth one, and this is the one that has the most general impact on me, is Melancholy by Salvia Palth. That one, like, the album itself is great. I recommend it, even if you're not a fan of like lo-fi indie music. Heavy recommend. But when you find out the story behind the album and like, in particular, the age of the guy, Daniel Johann, I think how you pronounce his name, when he made that album. The dude was 15 when he made it. And when I learned that, that was the kicker for me to be like, you know what? I want to start making music. And so whenever I make music, I always kind of go for like a guitar tone that's at least reminiscent of Melancholy, because that album in particular was just such an impact on me in both just the quality of the music in general and also the ethos behind it, like the creation and everything behind it. It was literally just a dude and his friends making an album and not intending for it to be like all serious, and then it just gained like cult status. Like, just that album made me realize, hey, anybody can make the music they want to if they're, you know, if they want to do it. I mean, obviously resources are a thing to consider, but like sometimes you don't even need that many resources. I mean, the album's not the best sounding album in the world, but it's still amazing with everything they had on hand.
Van Halen 1 and stuff like that. That's when I realized like, oh, this is it. You know, when I first listened to like classic Van Halen and really got it. So like Van Halen 1, and also this is kind of cheating, but I'll include them anyway. But like some greatest hits compilations. It's Cheap Trick. I can't remember. It's like 2 discs, like the essential Cheap Trick, I think. 2 discs for almost 40 songs, and all of them are fucking amazing. Just classic pop songwriting. There's like hooks within hooks, all that kind of stuff. And also Blink-182's greatest hits, mainly just because I love the sequencing of it. And the fact that it ends with Not Now, which is still one of my favorite songs of all time. I remember listening to that on my shitty, like, portable, like, CD player, like, while trying to fall asleep, like, connected with, like, my little earbuds while it wasn't even on the bed. It was, like, the most janky setup, like, at, like, 2 in the morning when I was trying to, like, fall asleep and deal with the pain that was fucking high school, which, yeah, you can probably tell by listening to me that high school was not a fun time, so... That's kind of stuff that means a lot to me, even though
James. And if we're
No, I
talking
probably would have
about...
bullied... I would like to see you try and bully me. I'm fucking 6'1". I like to see you try.
I'm not that much shorter.
I'm 5'11".
I'm about that.
Manlit.
Yeah. But yeah, if we're just gonna be talking about like music that like impacted us in general, and not just like
That's a whole other podcast, honestly.
Yeah. We could go out for hours about that.
Yeah. This.
Oh no, totally, completely. That's why, like, when I saw Spaceman's comments, like, that's a great question, but god dang it. One from Jimbo Mazza. What do you think is the best song ever written? Fuck, a lot of deep ones, eh?
Depends on the genre, honestly, because if you choose one from a specific genre, then it's like, oh, well, what about this one? And it's like, fuck, that's also great.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it really depends on what you're exactly listening to at the moment. Because right now, because I'm doing the Depeche Mode retrospective, if I had to like point to something, I would say the Depeche Mode song "In Your Room" or something. Maybe that, because Jesus Christ, that's just something else entirely. I almost can't even explain it. I had a hard enough time doing it in the fucking retrospective, like scripting wise. I think I was stuck there. I listened to the song 3 times in a row to really explain it in a good way. You know, I mean, there's that. Unsatisfied, the replacements. Fuck, there's a lot of replacement songs. Here Comes the Regular, Bastards of Young, Curtain Call, The Damned. I love that song. Yeah, so it depends, like, objectively or what just means it to you. You know, there's a lot of ways you can interpret this question.
Like, if I
can't even fucking answer the question of like what the objective best song ever is, because truthfully, I don't think music is like objectively good or bad. But
My favorite song, it might be Bring the Sun by Swans. It's like the 34-minute track from To Be Kind. Like, there's a part where, like, probably my favorite moment in all of music is, like, the fucking 10-minute crescendo in, like, the first third of it, where it's, like,
Right.
it's literally just droning on, like, D for 10 minutes, but it's getting louder and louder, and there's more layers being put on, and, like, it's like the musical equivalent of like a really steadily paced, like blindingly intense orgasm or something.
No, I totally get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that. Like a lot of Prince songs, like obviously your Purple Rain, but then you also have like honestly like Lil Red Corvette shouldn't be as good as it is, you know? Like just as a song, like that's something when like all the pieces came together to give you like the perfect pop song. Like it's another thing we could go round table a bunch of different songs and everything like that. King of Pain by the Police, Hardly Getting Over It by Husker Du. Just goes on and on and on.
I
Do
can
you have
name
any?
I can name
Drew?
a few songs by Brian Wilson, but like I couldn't really
Oh,
tell
yeah.
which one. Another
Totally.
Queens of the Stone Age answer, but I Appear Missing off of like Clockwork. I mean, like the riff is weird enough to where if I tried to vocalize it, no matter how accurately I did, you would think it's just some atonal garbage. But like in the song, it works so fucking
Would think
well.
you have special needs.
Yeah, but like in the song, like the main melody, like that, like repeats throughout the song, like that is performed in such a way where it makes it work and it works super well. And then the whole structure of the song as it goes in and like the full version after the second chorus, when the song just like roars back in after you think it's just about to end, and then it ends on one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard, which kind of is the reason why I'm listing it here for this question. But again, like best song ever written, you could hold up several
That's
other songs.
such a
to
loaded question.
Yeah.
Guys, please give us some easy ones here. Fuck, we're too
Honestly,
stupid.
I don't know. Honestly, fucking Guardian by Fate's Warning is up there for me. I'm the only person in this call who gives a shit about it.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. But got
yeah.
also Fades to Black, Welcome Home Sanitarium, In My Darkest Hour.
The best song ever written was the
fuck.
first caveman rhythmically chanting ooh 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 ooh, because it
Ooga
led to
chaka, ooga
it
chaka.
led to the birth of modern music as we know it.
Okay, I'm not the biggest fan of this band, but like in terms of like the perfect like metal song, like Call of the Mountain King, Sabotage, you know?
Yeah,
Because
that's like
that song is like riff upon riffs, like hook upon hook. Such an amazing solo. Like I'm not the hugest Sabotage fan, but I can't deny a banger when I hear it.
I mean, if
Another
I
one-
were to say like what like the archetypal like great heavy metal song is, and really like album, it would probably be like Painkiller by Judas Priest.
Honestly, either Painkiller or like Hellion Electric Eye or something like that. We only have a few questions left, but again, that's a whole nother podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have one from RIL or RIL from the Discord server. I don't know. Is it an abbreviation? Is it a word? I don't know. Do I want to know? Who knows? Albums you like that everyone else doesn't, and vice versa.
I can answer this one.
Ooh, go for it.
Basically every album I play and watch together that's not in James and Friends.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like garbage that you've made us listen to.
Like we tend to take sides when it comes to watch like our music taste, but if there's one constant, it's that nearly everything I play, the majority opinion is against me.
Well, it's one of those things like if there's any sort of like alliances, it's usually always me and you versus Nathan and Caleb. That's usually how it goes, because it's usually something to do with Prog, and Prog is not Pog. There is an unreleased episode of James and Friends on Grace Under Pressure by Rush. It's unreleased because we're idiots and we didn't download it soon enough, so now it's lost forever.
Yeah.
Oh god, it was like Nathan and Caleb and me and Drew just like going at it. Me and Drew hated it. Caleb and Nathan liked it. Yeah, then that was a bit of a bloodbath.
We were
Not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
I think
I'm kind of glad it didn't go through, because I'm not sure if it would have been very entertaining.
I think all of us like intrinsically knew while we were doing that episode that it wasn't gonna turn out good.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking too. I was thinking maybe save it in the edit, you know?
Right.
But So yeah, that's not a thing. But as for albums I don't like and everyone else does, or I like and everyone else doesn't, I used to say Psycho Circus by Kiss, but then I really listened to it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see why people hate this shit. And I kind of still like it to an extent because I listened to a lot as a kid. But yeah, I can tell it's garbage. And then there's another one is Dada by Alice Cooper. I remember really liking it. I listened to it the first time in forever and watched together and realized it sucked. That was unfortunate.
There's the first David Bowie album, I guess, in my case. I like that album. Everybody else doesn't. Well, I know Caleb has a few albums that he likes that everybody else just dunked on and watched together. I don't remember which ones those were.
Okay, something I don't like any Merciful Fate after the original 80s era. I don't hate it, but I don't care for it really in the slightest. I think it's missing a lot of the magic of the early Merciful Fate output.
It's hard for me to think off the top of my head, like, full-length albums that I like that most people don't. I mean, as far as here is concerned, I'm pretty much the only casual fan of Charlie XCX in this fucking group.
I don't like her.
Yeah, there's that. But
well, then again, that's mainly because I don't like women at all. So you gotta put that into
who
perspective.
fucking does? Even women don't.
Exactly.
That's why we're all single.
And gay.
Yeah. Dicks for life. Yeah, but as far as like music that I like dislike that everyone else seems to like, I don't really give a shit about like Nirvana for the most part. Then again, that's been changing recently. Cause like I do like a lot of like what I love like In Utero and stuff, so like I liked them when I was younger, and recently I've been kind of coming back to them, but like even today, like with the exception of like maybe Smells Like Teen Spirit, like most of Nevermind just does nothing for me. And even though I'm reassessing Nirvana, I think that like a lot of the fucking 90s grunge bands, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, were like way better and more interesting than them.
That's
and
fair.
Were more talented. And fucking the 80s alt-rock bands wiped the floor with them.
Oh,
but that
definitely. And I like Nirvana. Wait, speaking of which, that's something else. I don't care much for Soundgarden. Never done anything for me outside a song or two.
You also don't like the Talking Heads.
No, I don't. Does nothing for me besides a song here or there. There's also I like the first Ween album, God Ween Satan. I know it's kind of objectively terrible, but I do like it. It's just so arse-lurid. Like I can't like You Fucked Up is unironically a banger. Let's see. I like the album Van Weezer. That's one I like. Yeah, and when Drew found out I liked it, he wanted to kill me.
It's awful. It's so fucking
It's
bad.
fun. It's fun.
Why would you listen to that shit? Just listen to Van Halen.
It doesn't sound like Van Halen. It's basically just a Weezer. It's basically a Weezer album with like somewhat cringe lyrics. Wow, that's never happened before.
Imagine
And like shreddy lyrics. I mean shreddy guitar solos.
Yeah, listen to Van
giving
Halen.
a shit about Weezer post Pinkerton.
Fuck you. I'm a virgin.
Pinkerton.
It doesn't matter how many times I get laid. I'll always be a virgin at heart.
I mean, I like Red Album.
Yeah, that's fucking.
You think The Greatest Man Who Ever Lived is Weezer's best song?
Yes.
That song
Yes.
sucks.
It's good, dude. It's a good song.
It's like a melting pot of song ideas that weren't that good to begin with, but they just smushed them all together.
It's called having fun.
Yeah, have fun all you want, but don't make me listen to it.
Whatever.
It's like I'm sure my parents had fun while conceiving me. I don't want to watch that.
I do.
Exactly. Alice Cooper, Easy Action. A lot of people hate that because it's weirdly, psychedelic and everything. I like it much better than Pretty's For You. I think that's a good record. Now, a lot of people hate John Bush Anthrax, I've noticed recently. I like Sound of White Noise. That's probably my favorite actual Anthrax album. Kill me all you want.
I will say, like, I like a lot of what's on like The Burning World by Swans, which is like widely considered to be like the worst Swans album. Michael Giraffe.
The bits and pieces I've heard, I like.
Yeah.
Like they're the best bands to cover Joy Division.
Yeah.
So,
even though the original is still kind of better.
Yeah, But as for Sound of White Noise, Anthrax, I was like, how can people hate that? That it's got a song called it's a song about Twin Peaks with Angelo Badala, whatever his name is, and he actually co-wrote that song. How can you hate it? Like, Black Lodge is the best Anthrax song ever. Fucking fight me. I don't like anything Bathory past the first album. That's something, I guess.
Odd.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Even like fucking purists usually prefer like the 2 albums that came after that.
Oh, you know, I don't care for it in the slightest. It does nothing for me. I think the main reason I like the first Bathory is because of how much I love hardcore punk. And I think that's kind of like part of it.
It's like more rooted in like Venom and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the first Suicide Silence album, and nobody else. Okay,
Ugh.
it's the strongest of their early material. I can say that much. I can't say I listen to them outside of that anymore, but the first album still holds up to this day, in my opinion. Though I will say, one of my friends has this good opinion that I agree with once I actually started to listen to the album again. So I don't think you guys have heard it to really know what I'm talking about, but if the high vocals were on the Cleansing were replaced by growls, and the growls were replaced by high vocals, it'd be a much more enjoyable album.
None of those words are in the Bible.
Alright.
Best exchange ever.
And our last 3 questions are from the man who is not here right now, Nathan. His first one is favorite actor. I got a couple of those. Willem Dafoe, Paul Dano. Can I say Willem Dafoe again? Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Very basic bitch kind of answers, but I think it fits. Ezra Miller before they became psychotic, I guess, and before they got swept up in cape shit.
I don't really think much in favorite actor terms. I mean, Choi Min-sik comes to mind. He's the dude who was in Old Boy and I Saw the Devil.
Oh yeah, God, he's great.
He's really good. I would probably go with like Daniel Day-Lewis, just because of how like dynamic he is. But
oh yeah,
I also really like Cheryl Lee. She played Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks.
Has she done much else? I haven't seen her in anything else.
She hasn't really done a whole lot else, but her performance in Fire Walk with Me is like all-time material.
She played a prostitute in John Carpenter's Vampires. I know that much.
I'd probably also go with Robert De Niro.
Hell yeah.
Fucking Willem Dafoe as well, and maybe fucking Charlotte Gainsbourg, but that's a bit of a stretch.
Let's see, Johnny.
Fucking Jesus Christ, Emily Watson.
Johnny Depp. I mean, I know he's kind of a clown nowadays, but like Ed Wood, Edward Scissorhands, all that kind of stuff. He was a great actor once upon a time before he kind of just became a caricature of himself.
Also, keep in mind, when I fucking say Emily Watson, I mean Emily Watson and not Emma Watson.
Yeah, not Hermione Granger.
Emma Watson's not bad though.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. And on that point, I mean, Daniel Radcliffe's not bad either.
Yeah, but I haven't seen him give a performance as good as Emma Watson did in Perks Being a Wallflower. Then again, I haven't seen much of his other work. I've only seen Woman in Black and bits and pieces of other things. So
Woman in Black is
take
like
that
the
for what it's
only
worth.
thing outside of Harry Potter that like he's like semi-widely known for.
Well, there's also Weird Al Yankovic in that biopic that I actually do kind of want to see. Because apparently it's just a parody of what biopics, and that's just perfect. Also, another one, Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, I don't think he gets enough respect.
No, because even in like his early days to current day, like he's still Michael Keaton in every role that he's in, but at least he can adapt like his attitude based on the character that he's playing. Like with someone like Brad Pitt, it's like, okay, Brad Pitt stars as Brad Pitt, but with Michael Keaton, it's like you see him first in Batman, and then you see him in like in Spider-Man or Beetlejuice or Spider-Man, and it's like he's playing everything good, like to a T. I mean, you still see Michael Keaton, but
he's still the best part about that one Spider-Man movie he's in, and Morbius.
yeah.
I always forget he's in Morbius for like one scene.
Also, Marlon Brando. Gotta fucking
Brando.
Brando.
I think Adam Sandler is a great actor, but he just doesn't push himself in the slightest, and that's just honestly sad.
He is great. He's not one of the best of all time, though.
He's on the
No.
upturn nowadays, but you know.
If he had more uncut gems to his name and Punch Drunk Loves, I think he would.
You guys keep mentioning Robert De Niro. I would say the same thing about Robert De Niro myself, because whenever I see Robert De Niro in a movie, he's either, playing the gangster role, or he just does not fucking care. That's what I see.
Well, yeah, if you watch the shitty fucking... if you watch the shitty, like, comedies he was in the 2000s, but even his gangster roles, a lot of them are really different. Like, fucking, like, his role in Godfather Part 2 is not like your standard gangster, you know?
Also, like, his most, like... I think his best roles are the ones where he's just playing, like, really mentally ill guys. Like, Taxi Driver, fucking...
Raging Bull.
Shit like that.
Yeah. King of Comedy. Like,
I think what makes Robert De
like
Niro so good is that, like, a lot of male actors, especially when they want to be, like, really intense, they always kind of, like, yell all the time and stuff, but, like, Robert De Niro is more of, like, a strong, silent type. That's when he's doing the gangster role.
He can be quite varied as well, which people kind of forget about, which is, I guess, pretty sad.
Kind of like Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, exactly. People's like, oh, he only does gangster movies. Fucking bitch!
Pleb.
Anybody who says that, I think less of you.
Yeah,
I know
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
he gets far too much shit.
Did you see the recent
pleb filters?
Did you see the recent articles where Nicolas Cage admitted that he only took like shitty roles because he went into debt and like he needed the money?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude, fucking
a lot of
Ralph the Movie Maker called it.
Even those movies, you can still kind of tell he cares a decent bit for them. You know, he's not. I don't know. It's not like what Mel Gibson is doing, where he's appeared in like 7 movies within 2022 that nobody cares about. You know,
I know that he gets memed for it a lot, but honestly, Nicolas Cage is kind of arguably the only watchable thing about The Wicker Man from 2006.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I've been studying acting. I've read a couple books on it. I'm taking acting lessons soon. One thing is that I keep seeing is don't be afraid of melodrama, because people who are like, if you give a low tone performance, that can definitely work, obviously, but a lot of people do it because they're too fucking afraid to yell and scream and shit. Nicolas Cage is a man who's never been afraid to scream or yell in his life, and you can tell, and I love that.
I'll take an overactor over an underactor most of the time.
Oh, any fucking day. Okay, this might be just because I've only recently seen Kill Bill, but Uma Thurman is
fantastic.
Yeah.
She's not in enough things, though.
She picks her roles
exactly.
Well. Like her in Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill.
Requiem for a Dream, Jennifer Connelly is great. Everyone in that movie is great, obviously, but Ellen Burstyn, who plays the mother in that movie, and she also played the mother in The Exorcist, and she's in a bunch of other shit. She's so underrated.
Dude, like her character in Requiem for a Dream is just... Her acting is just holy shit.
Yeah.
She, like, I'm not one to say that, like, oh, that so-and-so was robbed of an Oscar or whatever, but the fact she wasn't at least nominated, I don't think, that's such a shame.
Dude, like, that scene...
She's so underrated.
That's, like, the scene where she's, like, explaining to her son, like, why she takes the pills that she does. Like, that's fucking heartbreaking, dude.
Every step of that, like, she's... Like, everyone in that movie is great, obviously, but her in particular.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
While we're talking about like heartbreaking performances, the best performance from a child actor ever, no contest, fucking Alexei Kravchenko in Come and See. He plays Fliora. Fucking like
Great. Amazing.
That kid's facial expressions, like they had to have like psychologists, like trauma psychologists on site at all times just to make sure that he didn't actually lose his shit during that role.
Another great child performance is River Phoenix in Stand By Me, which a lot of people know that is my favorite all-time film. But that scene where he's kind of breaking down somewhat near the end to Will Wheaton's character, like, there are adults I've seen who have never even come close to that, and he was like 12.
Yeah,
like that is up there too.
Would you guys count Christian Bale as one of those good actors too?
Oh, definitely.
Christian Bale's great.
All right.
Yeah, he's great.
Because I'm torn
As far
between
as,
going with that or just saying that like he's a character actor, which I don't know. It feels like Christian Bale's kind of doing character acting at this point.
I mean, maybe somewhat. I haven't seen much. The only recent thing I've seen of him do, and I haven't even seen the movie, was Thor, which apparently was a clusterfuck. That's the only thing I've seen of him do recently.
My favorite performance from someone who's really like not thought of as an actor is probably Bjork in Dancer in the Dark.
Apparently she was good in The Northman, too.
Yeah.
In The Northman, she only appeared for, I guess, relatively a short bit, but, like, she did good in The Northman.
There's 2 more questions from Nathan. I'll say them out of order, though, because one of them's an actual question. The other one is stupid.
Meme school.
Or
Meme companies.
Meme School. That one's the iconic one.
Meme school.
meme school.
You gotta go to meme school so that you can go to work in meme companies anyway.
Exactly. It's having the chicken before the egg. You inherit $5 million the same day aliens land on the Earth and say they're going to blow it up in 2 days. What do? Massive orgy.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, like,
Piles
find the most
and
attractive
piles of
celeb.
fucking.
No, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna
Go
buy.
find attractive celebrity I can think of and be like, let's fuck.
Jack Nicholson, come over here.
I'm gonna buy the unreleased Wu-Tang album.
Dude, who owned that? Martin Shkreli
Martin
or whatever his
Shkreli,
name
but
is?
then it got claimed by I think the federal government. So now it's in the government's hands.
Did it ever actually get is the music on that album actually been released?
So Shkreli, when he I think when Donald Trump won the presidency, he said he would play like a few songs from that album, and he actually did so in like a live stream, but it's such a non-point because like the audio quality kind of sucked, and there's
Of
leaks
course.
of it anyways. So like
He's probably
yeah.
playing it out of his phone or something.
Yeah.
Isn't he in jail now?
I think he's either like in house arrest or prison at this point.
Okay, so yeah, buying that that Wu-Tang album, massive orgy. I would probably kill somebody, and it world's gonna blow up in 2 days. Who cares? Just to do it, kind of. Like, I'll make sure it's someone who sucks. I'll make sure it's someone who is not a good person. Like I'll find Jimmy Page somewhere and just fucking take him out with a sniper rifle. Legally kill somebody. Have a massive orgy. Not wear clothes during that entire 2 days. I don't give a shit who sees my wing wang. And yeah, buy Wu-Tang Clan.
That's not one I've heard before.
Yeah, so
Alright.
those are all the viewer questions. This is almost 2 hours long. This is 2 hours long. Fuck me running.
Before editing.
And okay, and just to close it out, what we're playing, what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're listening to. What are we doing?
Well, I'm
Okay.
sitting here partaking in a podcast.
No, what have you been doing, you fucking ass?
Caleb, you go first.
Okay, shit. I've been listening to a lot of like esoteric. They're like a funeral doom band, and also fucking talk a lot. Fates Warning, Can, John Coltrane, early music like Adam de la Hell and Macho and stuff. I fucking rewatched the Last of Us miniseries recently. It's pretty good. Imperfect, but good. And I recently bought Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, which is like a postmodern book that's like notoriously like really dense. And also Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. No, it's not just because of fucking Wendigoon, although that is part of it. But yeah, and I also wanna keep reading like Faulkner and shit like that. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Where I'm at right now is I've been just off and on editing for new James and Friends episodes. There's 2 on the way. Load and then the
Also
next one.
finals.
Oh,
Fucking
yeah, there's
finals.
Yeah.
Good God.
Oh yeah.
Poor bastard.
Besides editing those 2 James Friends episodes, I've been getting into a lot of like emo and post-hardcore music, as
Based.
well as some early metalcore as well.
Not based.
Besides that, I've been getting into like some like Asian films, some Japanese tokusatsu series like, you know, Garo and Space Cop Gavin, you know, shit that nobody in here understands. Kamen Rider.
I've been watching Monster.
Monster's a good ass series. I've watched that before. Yeah, and then I've also just been making music on my own. I've been working on the same album for 4 years now, probably 5 years.
Me and
it's
Drew have been
still not
planning a
released.
split ever since my first EP came out.
Yeah, and I have to release something on my own first before we even make the split, and it's not even the album that I've been working on for 4 years. So we're gonna figure out where that goes.
Fuck. One of these days. I haven't read for a hot minute, though right now I'm reading through Wheel of Time 2, The Great Hunt, which I'm honestly enjoying more than The Eye of the World, which The Eye of the World, people say, oh, it's rip-off Lord of the Rings. It is kinda, but it's got its own flair to it where you don't really feel too much of a rehash. And also, I've never actually read Lord of the Rings. I've just seen the movies, so it's whatever to me. I'm only about 200 pages into it, but I do enjoy it more. And I'll be reading God Emperor of Dune, which is the 4th Dune book. It's pretty crazy, just as a concept. Just a man turns himself into a worm to save the universe, basically. And that's not a spoiler. That's the concept.
Morty,
I'm Warren
Morty.
Paul!
Morty, I turned myself into a worm, Morty.
It's honestly a really introspective affair of just like the consequences of doing this to himself and whether or not it's worth it, if he can reclaim his humanity in some way or another. And I'm only like about halfway through, and it's just like a lot of philosophy. Every word, every line you could turn into like a fucking song title. It would be a song title that goes fucking hard.
I've heard Frank Herbert's prose is like nothing to be fucked with.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And his writing gets better from the first Dune book, honestly. But yeah, but after God Emperor of Dune, I'm gonna leave the Dune series alone for a while before I get to Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune, because god dang it, it's a lot. Children of Dune is probably my favorite out of the trilogy, and that's the last one that I've read completed. I don't know, maybe by the time I'm done God Emperor, that'll be my favorite. After that, I do want to get into 1984. That's my next one on my TBR. Which, yeah, I know I haven't read it, but I'm a step above all the conservatives who try and say that Joe Biden is literally in 1984, so I have that going for me.
Nice.
And then,
he's 1983.
1984
Yeah.
is low-key, like, leftist as fuck when you really read between the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
It's low-key overrated
fuck.
as fuck.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
But
wait,
that's-
why
we
did
went
I
there.
say
But that's
that?
for
No,
that's for another episode.
Literally 1984, you hold up Van Halen's album 1984. Yeah, I've been doing that. I've slowly but surely been slogging through the second season of Twin Peaks because I really wanted to watch Fire Walk with Me, and the slog is real, and I've been feeling the hell out of it. But yeah,
What
I'm
episode
getting
are you
near the end
on?
of it though. 20 or 21 or something, I can't remember. I'd have to look. Besides that, I really no-liked editing the 72 Seasons episode of Metallica. I just finished editing a 1 hour long video essay type of video that isn't a retrospective, which I'm currently fighting disputes on, but that'll be up soon enough. And I've been editing another shorter video, which will be a little bit of an experiment, which you'll see it when it comes out. In about 3 days, I'm going to go to my first ever acting lesson, which will be a lot of fun because that's something I really want to try and do, because
Nice.
it's something I've been thinking about for years, but it is something I really want to try and do, just because when it comes to working in the arts, I feel like that'll be the easiest way in for me. So that's something I want to do. I've already read about 2 books on acting, which is, I think, Audition by Michael Shurtleff and a book on Stanford Meisner. And those people on the know that they're like kind of big names within acting, teaching, and everything. And I've also been playing Spider-Man Miles Morales for the second time since getting my PS5, and that's fun, though I haven't been playing too many games recently.
Hill 2 remake, speaking of PS5, because I have
Is
it on
that
PS2, but like fucking tank controls and not so great voice acting.
The voice acting I've heard in Silent Hill 1 is fucking hilarious. See,
It's not good.
I'm such a bitch when it comes to horror games. I love horror movies because I can just sit and just let it wash over me and whatever, like that David Lynch Family Guy skit. But horror games, when I have to actually do things, I can't really do it. Besides,
Yeah,
like
because
maybe
it's
I
like
don't.
fight or flight, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
Horror
and I'm
games
bad
are
enough at
much
games as it
scarier
is.
than horror movies, at least as far as like making you feel like you're in danger is concerned.
Yeah, and like I'm bad enough at games as it is, so that'll be even worse. Though I do want to try the Resident Evil 4 remake, because apparently that's really good and it's not
Yes.
even that scary
It's-
anyway.
it's
so I
good.
really want to try that.
It's good.
Resident
The
Evil
original
2 is
games.
scary as fuck. and great.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 Remake is good. The original isn't that scary, but they do bring back a little bit of that horror element in number 4, at least in the beginning of the game. By the time you get to the middle to end, it's like it's not scary anymore.
Right, because like I do like some games where there's like little horror elements. Like I don't know if you guys ever played Uncharted 1, but there's a part in the game where it just becomes fucking like Dead Space or some shit, you know, just in terms of atmosphere and stuff. And I really enjoyed that. Final season of Walking Dead. There's some light horror sections, which is really cool. So I like it in bits and pieces. So I might like it. I might like that as well. So I'll give that a shot soon.
All right.
But yeah, is that all?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's pretty much everything.
This raw recording is now just over 2 hours and 15 minutes.
We'll get better at this as we go along.
Maybe they'll still probably be on the longer side, but I guess we'll see. I'm probably gonna edit down a good bit of it to see. But yeah. So yeah, leave us some viewer questions. I can't guarantee you we'll get to them because this has already been 2 hours. But if I see a really good question, I see no reason not to put it in, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes from here. I'd like to get some guests on in the future. If you have any ideas for guests that is attainable for me to try and get a Discord call, by all means, leave a comment. And yeah, see you later.
See?
Come. All right. My voice hurts.